Sometimes she sits quietly by the window watching the light change across the sky. The world moves fast outside, but her world moves in gentle rhythm now. There was a time when she feared growing old. She thought her beauty would fade, her voice would go unheard, her dreams would disappear into silence. But she was wrong. Because the truth is, beauty does not fade, it transforms. It becomes softer, deeper, more honest. Her face tells the story of a woman who has lived, who has felt, who has loved, and who has survived. The lines on her skin are not signs of age, they are proof of courage. Each one is a map leading back to the moments that made her strong. The day she lost someone she loved. The night she cried quietly but got up again the next morning. The time she forgave people who never said sorry. And all the mornings she chose to smile anyway. She used to cover those lines, trying to hide what the years had written. But now she lets them show. Because every line is a medal she earned from life itself. People talk about anti-aging, but she calls it pro-living. Aging gracefully is not about staying young, it is about growing into yourself. It is the art of accepting every chapter, every scar, every memory as part of your beauty. There is power in that acceptance. Power that does not need attention or praise. Power that glows from the inside. When she walks now, there is a calm strength in her steps. She does not chase, she attracts. She does not fight time, she walks with it, and time walks gently with her, because it knows she has made peace with it. This is the power of aging gracefully. The kind of power that does not fade away with years. It grows quietly, softly, and beautifully. Just like her, she remembers the day she looked at herself in the mirror, and did not recognize the woman staring back. Her hair had turned silver, her hands looked different, her body moved slower. For a moment she felt a wave of sadness, like time had taken something away from her. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Where did the years go?" But then she remembered all the places those years had taken her. The laughter of her children, the quiet nights of prayer, the faces of friends who are no longer here. She realized time had not taken anything, it had only given her more stories, more wisdom, more soul. So she began to change how she saw herself. She stopped calling it getting old and started calling it becoming whole. She started taking walks again, not to stay fit, but to feel alive. She started listening to music from her younger days, and smiled when her body still moved with the rhythm. She learned to enjoy her morning tea slowly, without rushing to do something else. And in those small quiet moments, she found a new kind of happiness. Her children were grown, her house was quieter, but her heart was not empty. It was full of memories and peace. One day her granddaughter asked her grandma, "Are you sad that you are getting old?" She smiled and said, "No, my dear, I am not sad, I am grateful. Because I am still here, I am still learning, I am still rising." Her granddaughter looked at her silver hair, and said, "You look like magic." And in that moment she realized that maybe she was. Aging gracefully is not about denying change. It is about embracing it with softness. It is about knowing that beauty does not leave with youth, it changes its shape, it deepens, it glows differently. She began to take care of herself again, not because she wanted to look young, but because she wanted to honor herself. She lit candles in the evening, read poetry, and wrote small notes to her younger self saying thank you for surviving. Every night before sleeping she looked in the mirror and said, "You are still here, and that is enough." The fear of getting old faded away slowly, and what took its place was gratitude. Deep and gentle gratitude for every single year that had shaped her into who she was. One evening, she sat on her porch watching the sunset melt into the sky. The light touched her face softly, and she felt a quiet strength rise inside her. For years she had measured her worth by how she looked, by what she could do, by who she was to others. But now she understood that her worth was not in what faded, but in what remained. Kindness remained, love remained, grace remained. The years had not taken her beauty, they had revealed it. She began writing letters to women her age, women who felt invisible, forgotten, or left behind. She told them that they were not fading, they were glowing in a different way. She told them that the lines on their faces were proof that they had lived fully, that they had loved deeply and survived bravely. She told them that every season of life holds its own magic, and this season, the season of silver hair and quiet mornings, was a gift. The kind of gift you can only see when you stop wishing to be young again, because youth was never the goal, peace was. And she had found it. Sometimes when she looked in the mirror now she smiled, not to check how she looked, but to thank herself for making it this far. The young girl she once was would be proud of the woman she became. Strong, gentle, wise. She did not need the world to notice her, she noticed herself. And that was enough. She had learned that aging gracefully is not a battle to win but a song to sing. A soft, slow song that says, "I am still here, I am still strong, I am still rising." Her story was not about growing old, it was about growing whole. So when she smiled at the sunset that evening, she knew she had not lost time. Time had been her greatest teacher. And with every breath she took, she whispered softly, "This is my grace. This is my power. This is my rise." After that evening, she started to share her story more often. Not on stages, not on screens, but in small, quiet conversations with women who sat beside her on park benches or in church gatherings. She listened to their pain, their regrets, their fears of growing old alone. And she told them softly that loneliness is not the same as being alone, that the soul never grows old, it only grows deeper. Some women cried when they heard her words because they saw themselves in her. Some smiled quietly as if they had just remembered something they had forgotten. One day she visited a nursing home where women her age sat looking out of windows with tired eyes. She sat with them, she held their hands, and told them stories about her life. She spoke of mistakes she once thought had broken her, but had actually made her whole. She spoke of dreams she had buried for years, and then finally found the courage to chase again. And as she spoke, something changed in that room. Their eyes began to shine again. Their laughter returned in small, gentle waves. And for a few moments they were not old, they were alive. She realized then that aging gracefully was not just about accepting herself. It was about lifting others with her light. Because grace is not silent, it spreads. It flows from one heart to another like a soft current of kindness. When she came home that night, she sat down and looked through old photographs. There were pictures of her as a young girl dancing in the rain, pictures of her holding her babies, pictures of her standing beside her husband smiling at life. And she whispered thank you to each one. Thank you for the joy, the pain, the lessons, the love. She understood that the beauty of life was never in staying the same. It was in becoming more patient, more gentle, more true. And as she sat there surrounded by memories, she felt peace, not the kind that fades when the day ends, but the kind that stays quietly in the heart. She smiled and thought, maybe this is what grace really is. Not in perfection but in presence. Not in youth but in understanding. Not in what is lost but in what remains. And what remains is love. One morning she stood by her window and watched the sun rise again. The light touched her face gently and she closed her eyes for a moment. She thought of all the years behind her and all the days still waiting ahead. There was no fear now, only peace. She whispered softly to herself, you have done enough, you have loved enough, you have become enough. And for the first time in her life she truly believed it. She wanted to tell every woman in the world that aging is not something to hide, it is something to honor. The lines, the silver hair, the slower steps are not signs of weakness, they are proof that you have lived. They are proof that you have faced storms and still found a way to smile. She wanted to tell them that it is never too late to feel beautiful again. That beauty is not lost, it just changes shape. It moves from the skin to the heart, from the eyes to the soul. She wanted every woman to know that their worth does not shrink with time, it grows. Because every year adds another layer of strength, another story of survival. She wanted them to know that they are not behind, they are not forgotten. They are still rising, still shining, still becoming. And she said quietly to herself, if my story can touch even one woman, if it can make her believe in her own light again, then my life has been worth it. She looked at her reflection in the glass and smiled. The girl she once was, the woman she had become, and the soul she was still growing into all existed in that one moment together. And she felt something she had not felt in years, pure joy. She did not need anyone to tell her she was beautiful, she could feel it. Because beauty was not on her face, it was in her spirit. And her spirit was full of grace. As the morning light filled the room, she whispered one last time, this is not the end of my story, this is the beginning of my peace. This is the power of aging gracefully. This is my rise.